What's going on, guys? Today, unpacking exactly the strategies that I use to cut our cancels and no-shows for new patient evaluations in half over the course of a month. No-shows, cancellations, those kind of things can be a huge havoc wreaker on your schedule, can cost you a ton of revenue. And oftentimes I'll find this as a bottleneck. I found it in my practice and I see it in other people's practices where we can just find, sometimes an additional five to $10,000 in revenue and just recapturing some of these people that have potentially been lost. And today I'm going to uncover the strategies that I use to cut that in half and add some pretty significant revenue in our business, right? So the reason this is a problem again is a lot of folks will go out, they'll try to do more workshops, they'll try to spend more money on advertisement, they will try to just get as many evals in the door as possible. And while that is important, that is going to grow your revenue, you still have a leaky bucket at the top, right? And so oftentimes you'll have a ton of leads coming in, your phone call conversion may be really good either from your current admin or if you're taking them. And then what happens is now I have something where this person gets in, they get some buyer's remorse, and then now they cancel that follow-up session. No matter what kind of strategies you've implemented, you struggle to get these people in the door. And oftentimes that can be there's simple strategies that you can onboard. I'll share what we used, and then also you can have some phone call messaging issues, and we'll talk about how to fix that piece as well. So first big thing that we looked to add and fix this problem in our practice was what I noticed is it's not uncommon for somebody to have buyer's remorse. I mean, we're charging $225 for an evaluation and may raise our rates again in the future, and we're completely cash. And so when you get somebody scheduled, they get real excited about it on the phone, but then they get scheduled, they go home and they talk to their spouse, they start thinking about it. Any little thing gets in the way of them during the day, a work meeting or something came up, whatever. They'll, they'll find any excuse possible. And now they'll cancel that because they've got buyer's remorse. And so what we wanted to attempt to do was reduce someone's buyer's remorse, especially those that were objecting to insurance or cost on the phone. So the first big thing that we implemented was we added an onboarding sequence and a nurturing sequence for our patients that were getting scheduled. Now, what did we have before? We had typical welcome video, how to find the clinic, our cancellation policy, all that stuff was listed in there and they got that. But what I wanted to do was kind of celebrate their win. And some of this information or some of these ideas came from, I think his name's Joey Coleman, his book, Never Lose a Customer Again. He talks a lot about that in his book where, think about when a kid buys something at Build-A-Bear, if you have a Build-A-Bear near you or, some store like it, right? When a kid builds this bear, everybody around him kind of celebrates, right? And you kind of get a birth certificate for it, or you put a heart in it and all this stuff, and everybody's going wild, and the workers are cheering you on, and like it just creates this really fun environment and celebrates these kids for making this decision. So you get a kid who's walking by, and they look at it and they're like, "Oh, I want to build a bear," right? And so what we want to do is we want to celebrate this patient for making the decision of finally coming to see us. And so we did that in a variety of ways, one of which was a text message just celebrating with them. Hey, thanks for taking the next best steps in your health and working with us. And then just kind of confirming their appointment time and making it a little bit specific to them. And that can really go a long way because it doesn't happen in healthcare, right? Or other healthcare experiences. And then from there, when we look at, we did some other things to kind of warm them up, let them know, hey, we're an expert in the field, listing to them testimonials and those kind of things, and a series of emails that went out beforehand. And what that did was is it helped patients realize, hey, I am seeing the right people. It's the right time, and I'm going to go see the right people. And that helps them reduce their buyer's remorse. Because when they see a story about somebody else who had very similar symptoms to them, we treat a ton of shoulders in our practice. And when they see a video or a written testimonial, Google review about them overcoming shoulder pain and getting back to CrossFit, that is a very powerful story because now they step into that story and see that they were able to overcome it and get back to doing what it is that they wanted to do. So that was huge in just reducing buyer's remorse, getting an onboarding sequence, warming them up a little bit, just affirming that, hey, we've made the right decision. So then the next easy thing that we did was, hey, we're really going to try to push people to get scheduled within 24 to 48 hours. We have that availability. I mean, we run some high utilization, but like we can usually get these people in pretty quick. And if you can't get somebody in that quick in your practice, it might be time to hire. I know a lot of practice and business owners will wear a wait list with a badge of honor, but really that's just lost revenue that you are potentially missing out on. And instead, what we need to do is be able to get these people in quick because the longer they have to think about it, the more things that are going to get in the way, and the more resistance of life means these auxiliary things or ancillary services are going to just go to the wayside because they've been dealing with knee pain for 6 years in some cases, right? Maybe not that long, but for a long time nonetheless. And we want to make sure that we're getting these people in quick because now I don't have other life things that are going to get in the way. And it seems real simple, but even when you've got somebody on the phone and they're trying to push that appointment out, just reminding them of why you're trying to get it. You're trying to get it scheduled within 24 to 48 hours, right? You can leverage scarcity. You can just kind of remind them, hey, I don't want you to kind of continue to have to deal with this for the next several weeks. And just reminding them of why you want to get them in can sometimes go a long way. Now, you're not able to get everybody. I mean, that's the reality of people's lives and people's schedules, but that is a super easy piece to getting these people in and reducing the likelihood that they cancel. This is especially hard during the holidays. If you think about Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, summer travel, spring break, like all of those little things that get in the way, and then they get back to work, and now suddenly this isn't as big of a problem as they thought it was, right? And that's why they'll kick the can down the road, and they'll deal with pain for months and months. Now, the last strategy, in my opinion, is probably the most important one. If we think back to, some strategies that I see a lot of practice owners attempt to implement, and what we haven't talked about so far, and something that I don't think is important in my opinion either, is they will try to reduce cancels and no-shows by putting a credit card on file. Hey, we require a card on file, and they think that that's going to prevent somebody from, actually wanting to show up. Now, it will weed out the tire kickers, right? Somebody's not going to give you their card if they weren't planning on coming in anyways. But in my opinion, you can literally just ask them if they're planning on coming in for their appointment, and if they're not truly ready to come in, they'll just tell you they were just looking for you to give them an out, but you didn't give them an out on the phone. And sometimes just giving them an out is an easy way to just kick those people out without having to put a card on file. And meeting sales resistance and those kind of things, I feel like when you start asking for a card on file, especially if you're running paid traffic, like we run Facebook ads, I think it can sometimes kick off a lot of sales resistance, and it could potentially start the relationship off on the wrong foot. And that's why I don't personally coach taking cards on file. That's why we don't do it in our practice either. The other thing, and this can be helpful, but like this isn't the main point I'm looking to make, is like I'll see a lot of people try to reduce cancels and no-shows by just blasting people with notifications. So it is, hey, I'm gonna call them 48 hours out, call them 24 hours out. I'm gonna call them the day of if they haven't confirmed. I'm gonna shoot them a lot of text messages, a lot of emails. And again, those things are good because you're gonna look to remind just the basic subset of population, and things come up. But that alone isn't going to cut down on the messaging or any issues that kind of popped up on the phone call. And in my opinion, that is the single greatest, like that's the first point of sale and the first point of contact. And if that first phone call is missing anything, that's what's going to ultimately lead to people canceling a no-show. Because now what happens is they think that you can't help them or you're not the best fit to help them. And or it's, they think, maybe now is not the right time. And so if you don't convince them to know, like, and trust you by the end of that first phone call, these people aren't going to show up and cancel. So you trying to put up imaginary guardrails like credit cards on file, heck, even scheduling them pretty quick, or any of these other basic, pestering them with notifications, any of these other things are moot points, right? Like that's a downstream problem that it's a downstream solution to an upstream problem, right? And that upstream problem is there wasn't enough solid messaging and value provided on the phone. And so I've audited so many phone calls in my practice as well as other practices across the country. And when I see this to be a thing, it's because we weren't digging deep enough and we weren't providing enough value on the phone call. So then what happened was is when we got to the end of the phone call and we tried to tell the person why we're different and convince them to come see us and that we could help them, that fell on deaf ears because we did not dig deep enough in the discovery portion of that phone call. And that's in my eyes, the single most important point. What we did on our phone calls was we didn't change our script so much. We just made a heavier emphasis and a heavier focus on what the person's long-term goal was, right? Dig deeper in gory detail. What does this person want to get back to? It's not about pain. It's not about anything surrounding that. It's not because the shoulder hurts, elbow hurts, whatever. People will deal with that stuff for months and months. And there's so many people who can solve that for way cheaper than you can. There's always going to be somebody that's cheaper, right? It's the same analogy as Planet Fitness compared to Lifetime Fitness or a CrossFit gym or some other boutique gym. That's going to be $150, $200 a month versus Planet Fitness is like 10 or 15. And there's always going to be somebody who's going to race to the bottom, and what you have to do is you have to know and emotionally connect with this person on the phone call and be able to dive a little bit deeper. So you just finding out, hey, you got knee pain and it keeps you from going to the gym and you haven't seen anybody else for this, and oh yeah, or you've seen a PT or chiro in the past and oh great, we can help you with that. And then you tell them it's 225 or whatever your rate is, that's going to be a really hard sell. Even if I mean, like we're one-on-one for an hour, like we're all experts in, we treat a ton of CrossFitters, we're all expert in CrossFit ourselves, but it's like, that's a moot point if we did not connect with this person and dive deeper outside of just pain. People are inherently selfish, right? We all are, and they want to know that, can you help me? And is it going to help me get back to what it is that I want to get back to? And so you have to spend the large chunk of the discovery on that phone call finding what their ideal situation is. And again, it's not just knee pain, it's them playing with their grandkids, it's them being able to keep up at the gym so that they can lose weight. It's, hey, that's their community. And when they can't go hang out with their community, it stresses them out. For me or other people on the phone, it is stress. It's their stress relief, right? It's their moment of the day. Nobody can reach them, and it helps keep them sane, right? And I know that's true for me and so many others. And if you can dig into those reasons why on a phone call and actually talking to these people and quit focusing on just pain, then now all other things are silly, right? Nothing else matters because now they recognize the value in you because you have dug so deep and because they feel like you feel like they understand, or they feel like you understand them, right? Because you guys are diving in and talking about really the true root cause and the true reason why they are calling you. So that's the single most important point. Dive deeper on these phone calls. If you don't take any of this other advice, this third point is probably the most important. But that's how we cut our no-shows in half. I think there was 1 month that we had 15 evals. That's a mix of paid traffic and non-paid traffic, like website leads, SEO, those kind of things. That we had 15 in 1 month. I mean, that's a crazy amount of money. Like our lifetime value of a customer is somewhere in that $1,500 range. So it's like, dude, we potentially left 20 to $30,000 on the table that month. Like that's terrifying, right? That's a crazy amount of money. Like that would, gosh, almost like not quite double, but it's like that would add a third of our revenue almost by us just capturing these people. So like, hey, we got to fix this problem. And historically, it had not been a problem for us, and we track this stuff every single month, which I encourage you to do the same. But then we cut that down over half the following month, right? Like we had like 6, I think, last month, which inevitably you get some of that with paid traffic. We got rid of all the website leads, like there was no website leads on there or people who had been searching us. That was all paid traffic, which sometimes happen, but hey, I'm going to look to even cut that in half again the following month and continue to audit and listen to these phone calls and see what it is that we can do. And the crazy thing was, is we implemented that about, I think we were halfway into the month when we ultimately got that on board. So I'll be encouraged to see what happens when we get all of that entire month in and see if we can cut down on those numbers even more. So awesome, guys. Those are the three big points. Make sure you get potential onboarding sequence going in your practice. If you don't have one, that's honestly good practice anyways, just for good kind of customer service. Look to get these people scheduled as quickly as possible to help further reduce buyer's remorse. But most importantly of all, refine your sales skills on your phone call. Dive and dig a little bit deeper, and that's going to help you cut down on your no-shows, help you recoup some revenue in your practice. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this, and we will catch you guys soon.